All right, everyone, welcome again. This is Josh Rubin from East West Healing. Today I want to talk about what are some of the best sources of B12. But before we get started, don't forget to like this video and show us a little support. Don't forget to hit that subscription button and that notification button so every Wednesday when we put out a video, you get notified. Let's jump in. Of course, there's lots of people with B12 deficiencies, right? But if we come at it with the medical model or the functional medicine model, the naturopathic model, you're low in this, so take this. The problem is we're not focusing on what got us here, right? So you take the B12, you do your lab, oh, my B12 is normal again. The problem is you haven't fixed the problem that's causing the low B12. So if you stop it, it's going to go down again. It's that simple, right? Whether you're getting IV injections or you're taking a supplement. Now, what can cause low B12? I think the first thing is to remember that B12 is animal derived. So of course, if you're vegetarian or vegan and you're not eating animal products, you're going to have a B12 deficiency. So yes, you can take the B12, but once again, right? We absorb B12. We produce gastric acids that allow us to absorb B12. So you're not really fixing the problem because you're not eating the food, and taking the supplement, which I'll talk about, is not the same thing. Secondly, the most common is chronic stress, right? Who's not stressed? But chronic stress, which means, and I've said this before, when we live beyond our means, right? When the demands being placed in the system exceed what the system can handle. That is what stress is. We're not saying live in a bubble. We're saying build resiliency to the stress. Be aware of the things in your life that maybe you're overdoing, that you need to pull back on, that you need to support yourself a little bit different with, right? To build that resiliency and have that metabolic reserve. So now the demands being placed on the system don't exceed what the system can handle. So when we're chronically stressed, of course, hydrochloric acid, gastric juices are going to go down. Why? It's chronic stress. Research shows that they drop by over 40%, right? So when hydrochloric acid goes down, of course, the GI system it's pH driven, right? You throw off the pH in one piece of it, all the other systems are going to be affected, right? How we release, pancreatic enzymes is going to be affected, and the list goes on down the line. So now we affect the bacteria, we affect how we absorb our food, and we affect the vitamins and minerals that we absorb as well. Why? Because we need hydrochloric acid to absorb vitamin B12. This doesn't mean take hydrochloric acid. This means live in a way and eat in a way to support your system so you naturally produce hydrochloric acid, which is a huge piece of your immune system that prevents or helps you with the balance between good bacteria and prevents bad bacteria getting into the small intestine, right? SIBO, that's what we're talking about here. So when we're chronically stressed, HCl goes down. We can't absorb the B12, even if we're eating the foods. We end up with a B12 deficiency, right? So same thing, it's not just about eating the foods. We have to make sure we're living in a way and eating in a way to de-stress the system, build our metabolic reserve so we can stimulate our system to produce more hydrochloric acid. We're not running from a line all the time, and we're finding that homeostatic state so we can eat food in peace and allow the body to do what it's designed to do, right? Of course, pernicious anemia. Anytime you affect the intrinsic factor, right, which is a protein that's released, so we produce hydrochloric acid, we can't absorb B12, right? And there's of course reasons for this. If people have extreme cases of gastritis from eating just crappy foods, GMO foods, processed foods, that's going to be a problem. People that get, maybe gastric bypass or surgeries to their stomach for weight loss, that's going to become a problem. But 99% of the time when you're talking about pernicious anemia and low intrinsic factor, you're talking about chronic stress. You're talking about chronic stress, low hydrochloric acid. That inflammation in the stomach will degrade the parietal cells, will degrade the protein, and now we can't release hydrochloric acid, and now we can't absorb B12, right? So there's many reasons that get us to this place. I find the most common with people is chronic stress, and of course they don't eat the foods, right? Whether they don't like them, dietary restrictions, etc. Now, of course, our society is about this for that approach. Well, if this is low, right, take it. And unfortunately, in my opinion, we've been lied to. If your calcium's low, take calcium, right? If your D is low, take D. If your iron is low, take iron, and the list goes on. We have been lied to because vitamin D doesn't regulate vitamin D, calcium doesn't regulate calcium, iron doesn't regulate calcium, and the list goes on. Same thing with B12, right? Now, in a sense, it does, but you can't just take a supplement and think you're going to fix that. Why? Because most supplements are synthetic. You're getting cyanocobalamin, right? That's a problem because it's less bioavailable. It has to be converted, and it's not easily converted. And if you have a methylation issue, it's even harder to be converted. And a lot of the times you'll see these people with high cobalt levels on the HTMA if they're taking synthetic B12 supplements. So what they're taking is not even being converted. Compared to the animal source that we can get, which is methylcobalamin, which is very bioavailable, can be absorbed in the system if we've created the environment, if we've de-stressed the system and created the environment for our body to absorb it, right? So it's the same thing. Yes, you can eat the foods, but we have to be strategic in a way to de-stress the system. This is what our RTM method is all about. So instead of taking the synthetic supplements, instead of wasting your money and taking something that you're probably not going to convert and it's way less bioavailable, right? Nature always provides us what we need. You can get tons of B12 in fish, fatty fish, sardines, salmon. You can get tons of B12 if you eat liver, like chicken liver and beef liver and stuff like that, eggs, dairy. So it's in nature. Nature has always provided us what we need. The problem is everyone's just eating chicken and eggs. And no one's getting enough protein. So we're not willing to eat a variety, and we're not eating enough protein during the day. Everyone is under eating. Everyone is overeating carbs and everyone's under-eating protein. I haven't met anyone in 22 years that has come to me that's eating enough protein. And the problem is when we eat protein, we get tons of minerals, we get tons of fat-soluble vitamins, and we get a lot of B12, folate, things like this that we think we need supplements for, but we don't, right? So take a step back and say first, what do I need to shift to create a better environment? Number one, to de-stress the system. And what are some proteins that I can start bringing in that I like, right, to meet my body's needs on a deeper level so I can get the B12 now that I've changed the environment and I can absorb it. So if you have any questions, put them in the comment section. As always, we appreciate you.